The belief in the legitimacy of a ruling class government leads nearly everyone to either condone or commit acts of evil without even realizing it. Having been convinced that authority is real, and that by way of it, some human beings have acquired the moral right to initiate violence and commit acts of aggression against others by way of so-called laws, every voter and everyone else who advocates government in any form is a proponent of violence and injustice. Is it that you want the people in power to write down on paper that you're allowed to have a little bit more freedom? Whether it's, the Federal Reserve or income taxes or gun control or anything else, is it your final, ultimate, best wish in the world that your masters will give you permission to be a little bit freer? Is that it? Is that really what we should be going for? I totally accept that my freedom can only exist if the politicians tell me it can. Most of what I do, most of the discussions I'm involved in boil down to, I tell somebody, you should be free, and they tell me, no, I shouldn't. And that's all it is. And it's so frustrating that it's not like I'm telling them, you should serve me, and they're resisting. I'm telling them, you shouldn't serve me, you should serve yourself. You should follow your own conscience and be in charge of your own life and act like you own yourself. And some people just react really violently and viciously to me telling them, I think you should be left alone so you can do what you want. You can spend your own money, you can run your own life. If you attack somebody else, they have the right to defend themselves. But short of doing that, you should be in charge of your life.
My life is good.
And people get so just infuriated at the idea of human beings being free. And it's so sad. I'm telling them, you own yourself. Nobody has the right to take your money and boss you around. And they hate hearing that message.
Establishment of unorthodox loyalties which can only lead to thought crime.
And that's just, that really is the saddest thing to me. As much as, I bash cops as much as anybody for being cowardly thugs, but they're also victims. They started out as human beings. They're also victims of the cult of authority because it makes them into stupid monsters. And it's like the master thing. If you can convince somebody that they have the right to forcibly dominate everyone around them, what kind of person do you think that's going to make them into? To act the way no normal human being has the right to act. You or I went around randomly stopping people and asking them stuff and stealing money from them because they didn't have a stick on their car that we wanted them to have or something. Everybody would get that's wrong. Human beings don't have the right to do that. But when somebody with a badge is convinced that not only do they have the right to do that, they have the obligation to do that. And it is noble and brave and righteous for them to enforce the law. It's noble and brave and righteous for them to get a machine gun and kick down somebody's front door and drag him away and put him in a cage for 10 years because he grew a plant. The cops who really believe that are made into monsters by way of their own belief in authority. Most people know this instinctively. Most people in their own individual lives, they don't go around trying to violently control all their neighbors and rob everybody they know. Let's say you didn't have a badge. Nobody ordered you to do anything. There wasn't a law. Just what you're doing. Let's say what you are doing right now, you were just doing it yourself. Just because you did it, would it be righteous? If the answer is no, don't do it. Because it doesn't matter what scribbles a politician garbage says this. If you don't have the right to do what you're doing right now all by yourself, without any law, without any authority, without any badge, uniform, any of that, if you did this as a human being, if that would be bad, then it's still bad. Don't do it. If you're a soldier told to kick down people's doors at random and point machine guns at people because you're looking for a bad guy, do you have the right to do that on your own? No authority, no commanding officer, no quote-unquote war? Well, no, I wouldn't. Well, then it's evil. And it will always be evil. And it doesn't matter who wrote it down and who commanded you to do it. It's still evil. And Americans have been trained in such a way that they will do what they absolutely know is evil as long as a perceived authority told them to.
Either you're with us or you're with the enemy.
Come on, grow a spine, stand up and say, I'm not going to do this. This is is wrong. But people don't want to hear it because they're so trained to believe that obedience is a virtue. People actually cared about the truth and justice. I think the Milgram experiments,
Milgram, one of the things that's a prerequisite for carrying out acts that are evil is to shed responsibility from your shoulders and hand it over to the person in charge.
I'm responsible for what happens here. Continue. All right, next one, slow.
The day after the results came out, they'd be all over the world and people would say, okay, forget it, authority's stupid.
2/3 of volunteers were prepared to administer a potentially fatal electric shock when encouraged to do so by what they perceived as a legitimate authority figure. In this case, a man in a white coat.
375 volts.
Why you ever believe in that? I don't know, but obviously it's the most dangerous superstition ever, so let's not do that anymore. If you convince someone they have a right to dominate somebody else, you're not going to be nice to them. As soon as they believe that that's morally justified, even righteous, they're going to act like monsters. If you open a history book and see all the nasty things that happen, it's not because, well, for some reason Germany happened to have 1 million completely evil people in it. No, they had lots and lots of completely normal people who had been taught to believe authority. And then you get 1 or 2 people in power and say, oh, guess what, we're the authority, and voila, you have mass murder. The Stanford and the Milgram experiment show that it would happen here, just like it happens anywhere else, because of the belief in authority. If you actually convince someone that they are authority, meaning they have the right to rule somebody else, they're going to treat the other people like slaves, because you just convinced them that they are slaves. To expect people to act humanly, or humanely, or both, and they've been convinced that they have the right to forcibly dominate somebody else, is just loony. And to think that that's what makes us civilized? Government, by definition, is the introduction of lots of violence and threats of violence into society. By definition, it's the opposite of civilization. People who vote and say, well, we're going to go vote in this guy who's going to, give us more freedom. And if you still think voting is your voice, then you still think your only power is to beg the masters to please be nice to you. Like, we're going to elect this other master who's going to get in and tell us we can keep more of what we earn.
Rise before Zod.
You're actually reinforcing and legitimizing the slave mindset, because you're saying, oh, of course they have the right to steal our money. We just want a slave master who's not going to whip us as hard. There's a fundamental, gigantic difference between saying, I want to be owned by somebody who doesn't whip me as hard, and saying, I'm not owned by anybody, I own myself. Voting and people saying, if you don't participate, you can't complain. They're legitimizing their own enslavement. They're also legitimizing my enslavement. I won't advocate that you be robbed if you don't advocate that I be robbed.
Very nice. High five.
Cool, no more voting. What do you mean? I mean, there isn't anybody you could vote for who isn't going to demand money from me under threat of putting me in a cage if I don't pay. So if you're going to stick to your word that you're not going to advocate that I be robbed, you can't vote anymore. Well, we have to vote for somebody. And what people don't get is they really are, when they go in there and push that button, and if you explain it literally, they have to admit it's true. They know it's true. There's no mystery about this. When they go in and press that button, what they're doing is saying, I want to put this guy whose name is right here, I want to put him in a position of power, and I absolutely know that he is going to use that power to demand money under threat of violence from 100 million of my neighbors to fund his agenda. And everybody knows that. They don't say it that way. They don't even think it that way because they don't want to think it that way. But they all know, the guy you're voting for, he's going to tax people. You know, it might be a little more, a little bit less, or in a little bit different way, but you know he's going to tax people, and you know what's going to happen to the people who don't pay. They're going to be robbed or they're going to be caged or both. But people don't want to admit that you just went in and said, I want this slave master controlling us all. Well, he's not as bad as the other guy. Like, is that really good enough? There's two slave masters, and all you can think of is, well, let's see, which one of them whips us less? How about not be anybody's slave? But that literally doesn't occur to people. To them, that sounds like doing nothing. You mean, don't choose either slave master to whip us and rob us all? What are you, crazy? We have to have a slave master whipping us and robbing us all. And I like that guy, he's better than that guy. And the fact that they're stuck in this completely narrow paradigm, and they imagine that as being this huge, important choice. Wow, you gotta vote. This is your choice that determines the future of the country. Doesn't determine anything. Determines which jackboot is going to be on your neck. What difference does that make?
Politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything.
Either way, there's a jackboot on your neck. They have to be convinced that it is a choice. Because if there was one guy on the ballot, the illusion, the lie would fall apart. Because people would say, well, you're just doing this to us without our consent, without our permission. You're just treating us like animals. But if you put two identical twin tyrannical psychos side by side and say, you get to choose which one of them is going to stomp on you and steal your money, suddenly people imagine that they have the power or something. That, oh, now we're so empowered because I get to choose which jackboot will be on my throat. As if it matters. But the tyrants know they have to give the illusion of choice and power to the people, or the people will just say, yeah, we're not putting up with this anymore. This is insane. We're not your property. Well, you're empowered because you can choose which one of us is going to hit you with this club. That works, and people worship democracy as this great, this is our voice. And,
Mark.
No, it isn't. It's just you saying, yay, I'm a slave. And if you tell people, yeah, stop doing that, stop agreeing that you're a slave, they say, well, you want us to do nothing? Because they literally cannot imagine owning themselves. The victims of authoritarian aggression are demonized. Like, you're bad if you don't put up with being victimized by quote-unquote legal aggression, as used in the example of drug prohibition. The controllers issue a decree that their subjects may not possess marijuana.
I know this, but I'm gonna get you high today.
That prohibition is proclaimed to be the law, and any who disobey it are deemed to be criminals. The controllers then spend huge amounts of money, taken from their subjects by way of a different law, to pay for mercenaries, guns, armored vehicles, prisons, and so on, for the sole purpose of taking captive any who are caught disobeying their quote-unquote law. Now consider the perspective of the police officer assigned the duty of enforcing that law, who discovers that someone has been selling marijuana to willing customers.
$15, little man.
If the quote-unquote officer could objectively consider the situation without the myth of authority distorting his perception, he would immediately see that his job is not only immoral but utterly idiotic and hypocritical.
I'm somebody's bitch.
His job being to physically capture someone for the purpose of putting that person in a cage for a long time for doing something that was neither fraudulent nor violent. In fact, until the cop showed up, all the people involved, grower, dealer, seller, buyer, user, interacted peacefully and voluntarily. He, the cop, will see himself as the brave, righteous, noble law enforcer as he participates in a paramilitary armed invasion of the person's home and forcibly captures and drags the scofflaw, quote-unquote, away from his friends and family. Then the officer will go home and have a beer, and of course would not react kindly to anyone who tried to forcibly stop him from doing so. The only difference, which is no real difference at all, is that politicians made up a command about one mind-altering substance, marijuana, and not the other, alcohol.
The establishment of unorthodox loyalties which can only lead to thought crime.
As a result, the officer will truly believe that using one mind-altering substance is a good, wholesome, all-American behavior, while using another is shady, immoral, and criminal, and even justifies violent assault and kidnapping of the perpetrators. The violence isn't even veiled. Tax collection is usually you get a nasty letter that says we'll do nasty things if you don't give us money, and most people hand over the money. The war on drugs is just openly, draconianly, blatantly violent. You know, you have a paramilitary invasion of someone's house for pot. And some people say, oh, you just want it legalized because you want to smoke pot. No, I want it quote-unquote legalized because using violence against someone for smoking a leaf is evil.
We are only following orders, nothing more.
But people's perceptions are so literally, they can't think.
Only an alert and knowledgeable citizen can compel.
Literally, Americans can't think because they believe in authority. For them to actually conclude that it's great and righteous to, you know, have a six-pack and horrible and nasty and you should be thrown in a cage for smoking a joint is just insane.
What is that ringing? Do I have a tumor?
And the only reason anybody would ever believe that is if they actually fall for the loony lie that the politicians have the ability to change right and wrong.
I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain myself to a man who rises and sleeps under the blanket of the very freedom that I provide, and then questions the manner in which I provide it. I would rather you just said thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, I suggest you pick up a weapon and stand a post. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think you are entitled to.
They can, by decree, make one act evil and another act good. Because if you don't believe that, none of it makes any sense. Why the heck do you have the DEA with armored vehicles and these fascist raids unless the politicians can actually make it into an evil, immoral act to have a plan?
The burning weed with its roots in hell.
Yeah, one of my favorite things. You don't like it, get out.
Well, I'm getting mighty tired of seeing hippies running wild and burning down the school and stepping on the flag. Things are getting out of hand when you read about a man that'll burn his draft card but hang around the pool room and brag. Some folks think it's okay, but I wasn't raised that way, and I won't be satisfied till I've had my say. It's America, you got no right to deceive it. It's the best there is. You'd better believe it. Good men gave their lives so we could live to see it. It's America, love it or leave it.
First of all, you know, even historically, that's a little bit, is that what the colonists did? You know, we're having some problems with King George, so we're going to go to Spain or something. I don't have an obligation to leave my house because some stupid person is trying to rob me while I'm living it. But the attitude actually, it gives away a part of the state worship mentality, which is, you know, if somebody's in my living room and I say, hey, I don't like, you know, if you're smoking a stinky cigar or something, don't smoke that here. You know, if you want to smoke it, go out and be on somebody's property who doesn't mind, but you're in my living room. You know, that makes sense. So when the state worshipers say, hey, if you don't like the laws, get out, what they're saying is the politicians own everything and everyone in the country. Because if they have the right to say, hey, we can make up any rules we want and you can either obey them or get out, that implies they own everything and everybody, you know, in the entire country.
You are no longer black or brown or yellow or red. You are now green. You are light green or dark green. Do you understand?
Because if they have the right to kick me out because there's some obscure rule that I don't follow, they own everything, including what I call my house.
They own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
So many of these arguments, if you just take government out of the equation, the silliness is immediately apparent. Like people say, well, when you pay taxes, you're just paying for services. Okay, let's say I follow that brilliant method and I say, give me $1,000 or I'll cage you, but I'll give you a kind of stale sandwich after the fact. And hey, you're just paying for services, so it's okay, right? And everybody says, no, that's not okay. Okay, so that's only okay when government does it. Well, no, you agreed to it by being here. All right, so let's try that. I hereby declare that by living in your own house, you agreed to give me half of your paycheck. Now, you didn't really agree, but you didn't have to. I just decided that by living there, you agreed to. Well, no, you can't do that. And the love it or leave it is, you know, okay, I'm making up that as long as you live in your house, you have to give me $100 a day. And if you don't like my rules, all you have to do is leave your house. Just get out. And nobody accepts that as a rational argument.
It doesn't matter what I believe.
matters what I can prove. So please, don't tell me what I know and don't know I know the law.
So all of these bogus statist excuses, everybody recognizes that they don't apply in everyday life.
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
I can't just rob you and then give you something, whatever, I steal as much as I want and give you whatever I want. And that's the same as you paying for services. No, it's not.
Everybody be cool, this is a robbery!
Any of you fucking pricks move! And I'll execute every motherfucking last one of you!
And when people try to use that to justify government, it doesn't make any more sense.
I like turtles.
They really are just fishing for some little shred of rationality that they hope will back up their completely irrational cult belief in government. And they never work. They never, the arguments never stand up to any amount of reason. But they desperately want there to be some sane basis for what they've always believed. So they make up these excuses that don't actually make any sense.
We have found the witch, may we burn her? She's a witch. She looks like one. I'm not a witch, I'm not a witch.
But you are dressed as one.
They dress me up like this. And this isn't my nose, it's a false one.
Well,
What would you do the nose?
the nose?
And the hat. She's a witch.
Did you dress her?
No. Yes. Yeah, I bet. She has got a wart.
What makes you think she's a witch?
Well, she turned me into a newt.
A newt.
Got better.
Like, your choices are leave the entire country or blindly obey whatever the politicians want to make up on any given day. And they wouldn't accept that from anybody else except government. They don't accept it from me when I say, well, all you have to do is do whatever I say or get out of your house.
All right, mister, what do you think you're doing? You call this a room? This is a pigsty. I want you to straighten up this area now! You are a disgusting slob! Stand up straight! Tuck in that shirt! Adjust that belt buckle! Tie those shoes! Wipe that smile off your face. Do you understand? What kind of a man are you? You're worthless and weak. You do nothing. You are nothing. You sit in here all day and play that sick, repulsive, electric twanger. I carried an M16 and you carry that guitar. Who are you? Where do you come from? Are you listening to me? What do you want to do with your life?
Nobody would think that's okay, except in the context of government. And that's true of all of the arguments that people use to try to defend government. If you take government out of the equation and just use the same arguments just between normal people, they're all patently absurd. Just, well, you can leave your house or give me your money. And this counts as you agreeing to give me your money because you're still in your house. And I told you, if you stay in your house, you have to give me money. So you agreed. Nobody would fall for that. But we're all taught that as if, oh yeah, this is basic civics. No, it's not. It's basic lunacy that we've all been indoctrinated into. Calling something government doesn't make logic and morality suddenly turn around 180
According to
degrees.
Milgram, one of the things that's a prerequisite for carrying out acts that are evil is to shed responsibility from your shoulders and hand it over to the person in charge.
If it doesn't make sense between two people, it still doesn't make sense even if you call one of the people government. They desperately want some rational excuse for what really is just a completely irrational superstition.
So who's it gonna be? Your favorite MC. You scared of the government, they scared of me. You about to witness I got King Kong in my trunk, King Kong in my doors. My nuts play ping pong from the noise. You can hear me from a block away. I'm sitting next to your ass and can't hear what you got to say.
depression is depressing. Don't give a motherfucker time to learn this lesson. A lunatic, y'all know what I represent. The only rapper wanna fist fight the president. It take a nation of niggas to hold us back. It take a nation of niggas to hold us back. It take a nation of niggas to hold us back. It take a nation of niggas to hold us back. When I bang this, it's dangerous. Niggas go brainless. So bang this with the 4-5 stainless. And understand that you looking at the famous West Coast rapper who act like an A-list. Hollywood, they thought they can tame this pit bull, but I know what the game is. The fuckers cheat like an NBA rep. If you smoke one, they'll electrocute you to death. I got God on my intellect, Godzilla by the neck. When a nigga come through, who you wanna holler at? Ghost Riders hit the deck when your boy got attacked. Where the fuck is Africa? Bam by the act. We need to take it back. Fuck by time, clear channel and Radio 1. You motherfuckers programmed by the programmers. That's why you getting locked up by the dope slammers. Not me. It take a nation of niggas to hold us back. It take a nation of niggas to hold us back. It take a nation of niggas to hold us back. It take a nation of niggas to hold us back. Their music so fluffy, I'ma stay gutter. That shit is kinda popcorn, my shit is so butter. My style never changed in 22 summers. Straight independent and doing my numbers. This shit don't sell, you know I'm still paid. So side puss niggas can drink lemonade. I'm doing it for the love, you doing it because you need that advancement to spend on them dubs. I don't need a penny, but I need many. Don't worry about my money, boy, cause I got plenty. You motherfuckers worry about flossing so much. You don't know the fundamentals, you forgot how to brush. These 32 teeth will give your ass grief. Bite you like a fat burger if you got beef. So who's it gonna be? Your favorite MC. You scared of the government, they scared of me. Now what? It take a nation of niggas to hold us back. It take a nation of niggas to hold us back. It take a nation of niggas to hold us back. It take a nation of niggas to hold us back.